Hook said. Let's see what gifts the Lady Cooper brought me. He grabbed hold of her backpack. She tightened her grip. Let go, girl, he snarled.
No, she said.
No, said Hook, shocked. Nobody said no to Hook. He yanked on the backpack. Sarah yanked back. With a roar, she stumbled. No, with a roar, he raised his hook hand.
Sarah, shouted J.D., let go. Sarah let go of the backpack. Hook staggered backward and would have fallen if Smee had not caught him from behind.
Let go, you idiot, bellowed Hook, giving his first mate a bony elbow to the head.
Aye, Captain, said Smee, scuttling away.
Hook now examined the backpack, turning it around, upside down, and backward, clearly confused by it. Smee, he yelled.
Smee scuttled forward again. Aye, Captain?
Open this, said Hook, handing over the backpack.
The little man turned the backpack in his hands. His face nodded in puzzlement. But there ain't no hasp, Captain, he said. No buttons, no laces, nor strings.
Hook stepped toward Sarah, hoisting a hairy eyebrow. Tell me how it opens, he growled.
No, said Sarah.
Hook stepped toward her and raised his hook again.
Tell him, said J.D. Sarah remained silent. Hook took another step. Zippers, said J.D.
All the pirates laughed at this strange new word. Silence, Hook cried. He turned to J.D. What do you say, boy?
Zippers. It opens with zippers. The pirates, eyes on Hook, stifled their snickers.
Zippers? Said Hook.
Zippers, said J.D. They're a kind of...
I know what zippers is, said Hook. He snatched the backpack from Smee and thrust it at J.D. Open it, he barked.
J.D., with a glance at Sarah, unzipped the backpack's small front compartment, avoiding the larger compartment that held the golden box. See, he said, that's a zipper.
Hook's eyes were wide. Do that again, he ordered. Smee and the others gathered around to watch as J.D. worked the zipper back and forth. The pirates oohed and awed. Convinced there was no danger, Hook grabbed the backpack away from J.D. and played with the zipper himself. Looks like a saw blade, he muttered. He touched the plastic zipper, but don't cut your finger.
It's a very useful invention, said J.D., hoping to distract Hook from the backpack. Zippers can be used in all kinds of ways. Clothing, for example. He pointed to the zipper on his jeans. This created an uproar among the pirates. What are you doing? Sarah said. Ignoring her, J.D. worked the zipper. Hook's eyes were now as big as saucers.
Get me them trousers, he bellowed.
Immediately, two sailors grabbed J.D. and turned him upside down. Two others yanked his jeans off. He was returned to his feet in his boxer shorts.
Hook turned his back and, shielded by his coat, exchanged his torn leggings for J.D.'s blue jeans. He played with the zipper repeatedly, then shouted, "Ow!" and bent over.
What happened, Captain? Said Smee.
Never mind what happened, roared Hook, turning back around, his face beet red. He pointed at the backpack and snarled, "Open it!"
Sarah and J.D. exchanged helpless looks as Smee gingerly opened all the zippers, then tipped over the backpack. Sarah's iPad and cell phone tumbled onto the deck, followed by the golden box. The pirates were in an uproar now, gathered around these strange objects.
"Stand back!" bellowed Hook. The men parted. Hook leaned down and picked up the iPad. He studied its black glass screen. "It's a mirror," he declared. He held up the iPad and, using the reflection, combed some debris from his beard with his hook. Shifting his grip on the iPad, he accidentally depressed the power button. He jerked his head back in alarm as the screen came to life, displaying Sarah's wallpaper, a pristine, white sand Caribbean island in a sea of turquoise water. Hook nearly dropped the device. "Speed!"
Smee waddled over, looked at the screen, and gasped. "As fine a painting as I've seen, Captain."
"It weren't there a second ago," said Hook. He glared at J.D. "Where did this painting come from?" he demanded.
J.D. hesitated, not sure where to begin. "It's magic," said Sarah.
The pirates muttered nervously. "What did you say, girl?" said Hook.
"It's the magic picture thing," said Sarah.
Hook frowned. On the one hand, he could not appear to be afraid of this girl, especially in front of his man. On the other hand, he was a bit afraid of this girl, and this thing he was holding did appear to be magical, perhaps even dangerous. "Hold this, Smee," he said, handing the iPad to his first mate, who took it nervously.
"You can have the magic picture thing," said Sarah. She pointed toward the cell phone. "You can also have that. It's a magic talking thing, very magical. You can talk to people far away and send magical texts. I'll show you how to use these things. All I ask is that you let us go and let us keep this." She pointed to the golden box. "It's just an old family thing." She bent to pick up the box. She was stopped by the hook on her arm, its point pressing painfully into her skin.
An old family thing, eh? Said Hook, his dark eyes glittering.
Yes.
Hook bent and picked up the box. He found the little golden wheel and touched it with his foot.
Don't, said Sarah.
Why not? Said Hook.
It's dangerous, she said. Very dangerous, said J.D.
Hook looked at Sarah, then J.D., then the box. Smee, he said.
Aye, Captain.
Take this box.
What do I do with the magical picture thing, said Smee.
Put it down, you sponge-braided kid, and take the box.
Aye, Captain, said Smee, putting down the iPad and taking the box from Hook.
Now, said Hook, turn the wheel.
But they said it was dangerous.
I know what they said, you idiot. They're lying.
They are?
Of course they are, said Hook, taking a step back. Turn the wheel.
You're making a big mistake, said Sarah.
Silence, girl, said Hook. Turn the wheel, Smee.
With great reluctance, Smee put his hand on the wheel. Beads of sweat appeared on his broad forehead. He looked at J.D. and Sarah, who both shook their heads. Then he looked pleadingly at Hook.
Turn the wheel, Hook roared.
His whole body trembling, Smee turned the wheel. The deck instantly filled with sound and a light far brighter than the sun overhead. Shut it off now, yelled Sarah. Right now.
Somehow, through the blaze of light and sound, Smee heard her and obeyed. The light began to dim immediately, but it was 30 seconds or so before the pirates could see anything. What they saw as their vision returned was that they were no longer on the deck. They were floating, every one of them, up into the ship's rigging, and yet they were not afraid. In fact, they were delighted. Even Hook, who smiled hugely beneath his flamboyant mustache, revealing his foul teeth in all their mismatched hideousness. Floating above the rest of the pirates, like an overinflated balloon, was Smee, grinning blissfully, still clutching the golden box.
Sarah and J.D. were also floating, but being star-stuffed veterans, they were not surprised. They both closed their eyes when Smee turned the wheel, so their vision came back more quickly than the pirates. J.D. spotted Sarah in the midst of the floating pirates, angling her body upward, trying to get to Smee. But she was having trouble gaining altitude, as was J.D. They both could sense that the small amount of star stuff Smee had released was already wearing off. J.D. grabbed the mainmast stay and used it to propel himself toward Sarah. "We need to get out of here," he said, catching hold of her arm. "We need to get the box," she answered, still struggling to rise. "We can't reach it," he said, looking at the giggling Smee, now floating near the crow's nest, with Hook about 10 feet below him. "And when Hook comes down, we need to be gone." Sarah continued to strain, but she and J.D. were both starting to sink. Around them, the other pirates were also slowly descending. "Sarah, come on," said J.D. Seeing that her efforts were hopeless, Sarah reluctantly gave up. She followed J.D. as he veered away from the ship, out over the open water, pointing toward the mountainous island in the distance.
From above, Hook saw them leaving, but he was untroubled. In part, this was because of the unaccustomed mellowness he was feeling. But mostly it was because of the golden box. Hook knew what was in that box. He'd had dealings with it long ago. He knew it was indeed magical and very powerful. And now, he thought as he drifted back toward the deck, with Smee and the box descending lazily after him, that power is mine.